Welcome to your ultimate guide to writing IELTS introductions. In this video, I'll take you step by step through how to write quick, accurate, and high-scoring introductions for any type of IELTS essay. You'll discover exactly what examiners are looking for, learn powerful structures to make your introduction stand out, and see real examples for different essay types. Plus, stick around until the end for a free PDF packed with a lesson summary, essential vocabulary, and sample answers to help you succeed. Let's get started. So in today's lesson, we're going to be learning how to write the introduction for our IELTS essays. Broadly speaking, our introduction should do two things. First of all, it should introduce the topic. This will be between 1 and 2 sentences long. Then, after that, we're going to respond to the question, and that's also 1 to 2 sentences. So in total, your IELTS introductions will typically be between 2 and 4 sentences long. Let's write an IELTS introduction together. Here is the question. Teenagers should have regular exams at secondary school as this will prepare them better for life after leaving school. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Now, the first thing that you're going to do is to underline the keywords to help you understand the question. So words like teenagers, regular exams, prepare them better for life after leaving school. Now, when it comes to writing our introduction, the first thing we're going to do is to introduce the topic. For that, we're going to use the rubric, this section here. What we need to do is paraphrase the rubric in our own words. How about this? Exams are an important feature of secondary education. However, there is contention over whether frequent exams prepare students for post-school life. Okay, now you'll see that I've used different words than those words that appear in the rubric. So, for example, in the rubric it says teenagers should have regular exams. In our introduction we write frequent exams. The rubric has secondary school. In our introduction we write secondary education. The rubric has life after leaving school. In our introduction, we write post-school life. Now, the next thing we're going to do is to respond to the question. And remember, this is also going to be 1 to 2 sentences long. When we respond to the question, we answer this part. To what extent do you agree or disagree? In this essay, I will argue that teenagers should be given regular exams at secondary school, as this will help them to be prepared for their academic and professional life after they have left school. Hey there, if you're enjoying this activity, then check out EnglishProTips.com, where you'll get help for all parts of the IELTS test, the listening test, the reading test, the writing test, the speaking test. You can start for free at EnglishProTips.com. See you inside. When we're responding to the question, we need to be very, very careful that we're showing the examiner that we fully understand the question that's been asked. Because of that, I advise you not to use synonyms unless you're 100% sure. So to recap, when we're introducing the topic, yes, we paraphrase and we use synonyms. When we're responding to the question, we only use synonyms if we're 100% sure. So, for example, the rubric says teenagers, and in our introduction, we write teenagers. The rubric says secondary school, and we write secondary school. In the rubric, it says life after leaving school, and we just changed this slightly to after they have left school. So we make sure there is no change in meaning. We use the same phrases because we want to show the examiner that we fully understand the question. So again, use synonyms and paraphrasing when introducing the topic. But when responding to the question, don't use synonyms unless you're 100% sure. Now what we're going to do is look at introducing the topic and responding to the question in a little more detail. Hey, I want to show you something really cool that I've developed at EnglishProTips.com. In my speaking course, you can watch the video with a model answer, do some quizzes, learn the useful vocabulary, and then this is the really cool thing. You can type in your own answer here in the comment section, then wait around 30 to 40 seconds, and voila, here it is. Sammy, our AI teaching assistant, will correct your answers and give you feedback for free. It's amazing and can help you to prepare top answers for the IELTS speaking test. To try this feature out, just register for the IELTS speaking course at EnglishProTips.com. See you inside. First of all, introducing the topic. There are different ways to introduce the topic. One of the most useful ways to introduce the topic is to contrast times, and I'll show you what I mean. Imagine you get this question. Research shows that business meetings and business training are increasingly taking place online. Do the advantages of this development outweigh the disadvantages? Okay, we could write something like this. In the past, business meetings and training seminars were usually held in person on the company premises. Nowadays, they are frequently being held online. There is a structure to this introduction. We have in the past, comma, verb phrase, nowadays, comma, verb phrase. We can use this as a template for a lot of IELTS introductions, particularly those that are questions that talk about something that was one way in the past and is different now in the present. Here's a little tip. If you see this development written in the question, then you know you can use this template structure. Let me show you some more examples. In many countries, parents are deciding to have children later in their lives. Do you think the advantages of this development outweigh the disadvantages? Okay, did you spot development? We have it again. So we can use our template introduction structure. In the past, it was common for couples to settle down and have children in their early 20s. Nowadays, many couples are waiting until their 30s to start a family. So again, we have in the past, comma, a verb phrase, nowadays, comma, verb phrase. Let's have a look at a third example. Nowadays, it is becoming increasingly common for people to do their work from home rather than going into their place of work. What are the reasons for this? Is this a positive or negative development? Okay, so we've spotted the word development. Let's use our template structure. In the past, the majority of work was carried out in offices or on the company premises. Nowadays, more and more people are switching to working from home. Don't go anywhere, I want to show you another template structure. This is when we introduce contrasting opinions, and I'll show you an example. Some people believe that individuals should be allowed to own a gun as a means to protect themselves and their families. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? Let's write our introduction. Some people feel that the possession of firearms should be legalized on the grounds that they are necessary for personal protection and maintaining the safety of their families. Others argue that widespread possession of guns will lead to a more dangerous society. Okay, so now we have a new template structure. We have some or many, people feel, believe or think, and then we have a verb phrase. And then we have a new sentence that says, others argue, and then another verb phrase. Now, we would use this template structure when we have phrases like some people, because these questions are showing us that there is a difference in opinion. Let's have a look at another example. Some people believe that workers should be required to retire from their career at a particular age. Others believe that people should be allowed to work as long as they like. Discuss both these views and give your own opinion. Okay, again we have some people. So the question is showing us that there's a contrast in opinions. Let's use our template. Some people think that there should be a mandatory retirement age. Others argue that there should be no limits to how long a person is allowed to work. We also have certain grammar structures that we use when we respond to the question. Let's take our model question again. Teenagers should have regular exams at secondary school as this will prepare them better for life after leaving school. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Now, when we talk about general statements and facts, we use the present simple. Let me show you. Exams are an important feature of secondary school education. So this is a general statement and we're using the present simple of the verb be, are. Exams are an important feature of secondary school education. Another example. Teachers monitor exam results to understand their students' progress. Teachers monitor. Monitor is the present simple. However, if we want to talk about recent or unfinished changes, we're not going to use the present simple, we're going to use the present perfect. Recently, many parents have begun to question whether their children are under too much stress. So the word recently identifies that we're talking about a recent change. As a result, we're going to use the present perfect. Recently, parents have begun to question whether their children are under too much stress. Another example. Over the last decade, exams have become much more prevalent in high schools. Over the last decade. So this is a time period that has not finished. We're saying from the last decade until now. By the way, a decade is 10 years. So we're talking about a development that is still ongoing, and as a result, we're going to use the present perfect. Again, decade means 10 years, and this is a very useful word for IELTS essays. So if you haven't already, write decade in your vocabulary book. More grammar. We have another grammar structure that we use regularly when we introduce the topic, and that is the present continuous. We use the present continuous when we want to talk about things which are changing right now. The stress that young people are put under in high school is constantly rising. Constantly rising is the present continuous. Another example. Parents are becoming increasingly worried that their children are under too much pressure. Now, let's look at how we can respond to the question. Remember, we said that responding to the question should be 1 to 2 sentences long, and it should also show the examiner that we have clearly understood the question. As a result, we only use synonyms if we are 100% sure. Also, when we respond to the question, we introduce the ideas that appear in our body paragraphs. So this is sometimes called a thesis statement, and we'll look at some examples in a second. But before that, I want to show you about the importance of using the right synonym. Imagine we get our model question again, and we write this introduction. In this essay, I will argue that children should be given regular exams at secondary school. Okay, have a look at the word children and think, is this an appropriate word to use here? So the rubric says teenagers and we have written children. Are these synonyms? Well, not necessarily. A better idea would be to use the word teenagers. Yes, we could maybe use adolescents here because we know adolescents and teenagers are perfect synonyms. However, if you can't think of a synonym, just use the word from the rubric rather than trying to guess. Now, when we're writing our introduction and when we're responding to the question, we need an outline statement or a thesis statement, as it's sometimes called. In this essay, I will argue that teenagers should be given regular exams at secondary school, as this will help them to be prepared for their academic and professional life after they have left school. So our thesis statement tells the examiner what they're going to read about later on in our essay. So in this case, they're going to read about the idea that teenagers who do regular exams are better prepared for their academic and for their professional life after they have left school. This is our structure. In this essay, comma, I will, and then we have a verb like argue, explain, present, describe. Now, when we're writing our thesis statement and responding to the question, we often need to express our opinion. We can use phrases like, I believe, or I would argue that. These are clear phrases for expressing opinions. But I want to show you some advanced phrases for when you're partially agreeing with the statement. Take into account. In this essay, I will argue that regular exams do prepare teenagers for life after leaving school, but we should also take into account how those exams are carried out. Provided. In this essay, I will argue that regular exams do prepare teenagers for life after school, provided that they are carried out in a sensible way. It depends on. In this essay, I will argue that regular exams do prepare teenagers for life after school, but realize that it depends on how those exams are carried out. These advanced phrases can really help you to get band 7, 8, or 9 in your IELTS writing test. If you would like to get the following lesson on how to write body paragraphs and conclusions, please check out my Task 2 writing course. You'll find the link below this lesson. In the body paragraph lesson, I'll show you exactly what the examiner is looking for and explain the essential steps needed to get band 7 or above in your IELTS essays. Now, what we're going to do is look at some example introductions for all the IELTS essay question types. So the essay question types are agree-disagree questions, advantage-disadvantage questions, discussion questions, double questions, and direct questions. Did you know that the most common question type that you get in the IELTS exam are the agree-disagree questions? A question a bit like this. Some people believe that individuals should be allowed to own a gun as a means to protect themselves and their families. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? Now, the first thing we're going to do is introduce the topic. Let's say some people feel that the possession of firearms should be legalized on the grounds that they are necessary for personal protection and maintaining the safety of their families. Next, we respond to the question. I completely disagree. In this essay, I will argue that individuals should not be allowed to own a gun, as it will be difficult to regulate who has access to these weapons and may lead to a more dangerous society. So, I completely disagree clearly shows the examiner what my response is. And then the phrase, it will be difficult to regulate who has access to these weapons and may lead to a more dangerous society shows the examiner why I completely disagree. Now, these are the ideas that I'm going to develop in my body paragraph, and the examiner will expect to see these ideas in my essay. Let's now look at an advantage-disadvantage question. In many countries, parents are deciding to have children later in their lives. Do you think the advantages of this development outweigh the disadvantages? So we see the phrase, this development, so we know we can use our in the past plus nowadays template structure. In the past, it was common for couples to settle down and have children in their early 20s. Nowadays, many couples are waiting until their 30s to start a family. And now we're going to respond to the question. In this essay, I will argue that having children later in life is beneficial for both the parents and the children. Hey there, if you're enjoying this activity, then check out EnglishProTips.com, where you'll get help for all parts of the IELTS test, the listening test, the reading test, the writing test, the speaking test. You can start for free at EnglishProTips.com. See you inside. Alright, let's look at a discussion question. Some people believe that workers should be required to retire from their career at a particular age. Others believe that workers should be allowed to work as long as they like. Discuss both these views and give your own opinion. Now, we've got the phrase some people in the rubric, so we use our contrasting opinions template. Some people think that there should be a mandatory retirement age. Others argue that there should be no limits to how long a person is allowed to work. And now let's respond to the question. In this essay, I will argue that people should be allowed to work as long as they like, so that they can continue to earn money for the future. Let's now look at a double question. Electric vehicles are considered to be less harmful to the environment than petrol and diesel vehicles. What prevents individuals from choosing electric vehicles? Discuss some possible ways to encourage people to buy electric vehicles. Let's write our introduction. Over the last decade, many people have shifted to choosing electric vehicles rather than petrol or diesel vehicles. However, others are discouraged from changing to electric cars because of their high price and the familiarity that they have with petrol vehicles. In this essay, I will argue that these obstacles can be overcome with an appropriate pricing model and information over the correct use of electric vehicles. Okay, there are many other types of double questions. Here's another type of double question. Nowadays, it is becoming increasingly common for people to do their work from home rather than going into their place of work. What are the reasons for this? Is this a positive or negative development? Quite a tricky question to get in IELTS. The first part asks what are the reasons. The second part is asking whether this is a positive or negative development. So it's similar to an advantage-disadvantage essay in the second part. Here's our introduction. In the past, the majority of work was carried out in offices or on the company premises. Nowadays, more and more people are switching to working from home. This development has been compounded by two factors: the advantage in technology that made it possible, and the COVID pandemic, which made it essential. Let's respond to the question. In this essay, I will explain that this is a positive development because it allows people to save time commuting and has also been beneficial for the environment. Finally, we have the last question type, which is not so common in IELTS and tends to be slightly easier to write the introduction for. It's the direct question. Research into new types of medicine is essential to improve health and deal with disease. Who do you think should fund this research? Private companies, individuals, or governments. Okay, let's introduce the topic. Researching new types of medicine is integral to humankind. However, it can also be extremely expensive. And now let's respond to the question. In this essay, I will argue that governments should fund this research due to the costly nature of research and in order to ensure that any new medicine can be cheaply supplied to those most in need. Alright, thank you for being with me in this lesson. The important thing for you is that you practice these skills as soon as possible. Download the PDF below this lesson and try writing your own introductions. It's been a real pleasure to teach you today. Best of luck with all of your studies, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.